Sometimes in misgivings darken the day, and things that I cannot see, I ask my dear Lord to brighten the way. He whispers sweet things to me. He whispers sweet things to me. He whispers.
We're in our very last lesson, and it is entitled, what's up there? Human evolution. That's what we're going to be talking about. Human evolution. I'm going to start by talking about two scientific facts, okay? Underline that, okay? Scientific what? Facts, okay? So they involve the realm of science, and they are fact. What does that mean? They are fact. Proven. They are true. They are not false. Okay, so two scientific facts. Number one, are you ready? Life cannot come from non-life. That's something you and I need to hold on to. Can we teach that principle to our children when they are little bitty? Oh yeah. Did you know, as far as I'm concerned, it is the only argument that a person needs in order to totally refute the evolutionists? That's it. You know, here a guy starts talking about evolution and how man evolved from all these things, and if a kid would just raise his hand with a little bit of courage and say, "Teacher, can I ask you one question? Can life come from non-life?" He's got to do one of two things, doesn't he? He has to deny science and accept evolution, or he has to deny evolution and accept the truth, okay, and accept true science. Life does not come from non-life. Now, here's a second one that's true. Are you ready? It is impossible for organisms to transfer from one kind, K-I-N-D, to another kind. Turn your Bibles to Genesis chapter 1. Somebody read verses 24 and 25. 24 and 25.
And God said, "Let the earth bring forth a living creature after his kind, cattle and creeping things, and beasts of the earth after his kind." And it was so. God made the beasts of the earth after his kind, the cattle after their kind, and everything that creepeth upon the earth after his kind. And God saw that it was good.
Wow, 5 times in those 2 verses that little word kind is used. And sometimes we just read that and we don't really stop to think about the implications of the word. Notice, he created things after their what? After their kind. Do we have a classification system for both plants and animals in our scientific community? Yes. And most of the time, our scientific community stops at the broad classification of species. Okay, and sometimes individuals will liken species to kinds. Don't do that. Okay? Don't do that. A kind is what God has given, and it is the broadest category that we have as far as classification is concerned. And listen to me again. Organisms cannot transfer from one kind to another kind. That is an impossibility. And I believe in a previous lesson I gave a couple of illustrations of that, didn't I? A human being cannot have sexual relationships with an ape and produce something, can they? That's an impossibility, because they run into what I refer to as the kind line. It's that boundary line where nothing can go beyond that. Now, we may mention the fact that a horse can have a relationship with a donkey, and what do we get? We get a mule. Most of the time, the mule is neuter in gender, meaning it cannot what? Can't reproduce. It's met the what? It's met the kind line. Now, occasionally, a mule will be born that can reproduce, but every time he does, guess what is always born? a horse. Isn't that something? It doesn't mutate into something else. It doesn't evolve into something else. It always goes back to the equine family. Why? Because we've reached the what? We've reached the kind line, okay? Now, if you're arguing with an evolutionist will have an argument against these kind lines. Does anybody know what the one-word argument against the kind lines is? Nobody. You ready for this crazy word? Mutations. Okay? Mutations. True or false? There are mutations in the animal and plant kingdom. Yes. There are mutations, okay? And we've all, well, maybe not all of us, but many of us have seen the movie Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles. Haven't we? Okay? These are mutants, right? When you look at them, they look like what? Walking turtles, don't they? But when they talk to you, yeah, they sound like people. They don't sound like a box turtle or anything. Okay, in fact, I've never talked to a box turtle, have you? But yet, here these guys are, and guess what? They are ninjas, are they not? They're ninja turtles. Here are turtles who are so smart, so agile, that they can do ninja moves. See, in order to become that, they had to mutate. Okay? And so, the evolutionists will say, now wait a minute, preacher. There is a way that you can cross kind lines, and that is through mutations. So we need to understand a couple of facts about mutations. Okay? Number one, mutations are rare. What does that mean? Yes, they very seldom happen. How many times is a two-headed snake born into the world? That's a mutation. Guys, that just doesn't happen very often. I've lived all my life, and guess what I've never seen in the wild? I've never seen a two-headed snake. I was pulling some weeds around my monkey grass on the side of my house the other day. I looked up, and there was this little black snake. He was looking at me. He's checking me out. I was checking him out. He was wondering if I was going to bite him. I was wondering if he's going to bite me. But guess what he had? One head, not two. It is very rare, isn't it? So mutations, number one, are rare. Number two, mutations are extremely random in nature. What do we mean by that? Okay? It might happen here, but then it won't ever happen again there for ages and ages and ages. And then when it does happen, it happens way over here. So in other words, it's not like mutations are just constantly occurring, okay, as far as these big mutations are concerned. Number three, mutations almost 100% of the time are not good, they are bad. Okay? I don't know about you, but if I were a snake, I'd only want one head. Two heads is one too many, isn't it? What are we going to eat tonight? That's like a marriage, isn't it? They can't make up their mind. What if one head wants mouse and another head wants something else? We're up a creek, aren't we? Somebody's got to compromise in this relationship. Mutations are not good. They're almost always bad. Now, just those three things alone, right? They are what? Rare, random, and bad. And yet, that is exactly what the evolutionists is putting their trust in to make us believe that this is why everything is here today. Unbelievable, isn't it? Fourth point. Good mutations are very, very, very rare. Very seldom does a good mutation ever happen in the plant or animal kingdom. You put all those facts together, and the reality is this, folks. Mutations will never help evolution. They won't do it. Have you ever wondered why the evolutionist says that the universe is 14.8 billion years old? Have you ever wondered that? When I was growing up, especially when I was in high school and college, I was going to college at Memphis State University, University of Memphis now, and I was attending at that time the Getwell Church of Christ, and Brother Garland Elkins was the pulpit minister there at the Getwell Church of Christ. And they had lectureships there. They had lectureships at the Memphis School of Preaching. They brought in all kinds of individuals for seminars, and one of the individuals they brought in was Brother Bert Thompson. Okay? And so he would be the one who was speaking about all of these things regarding evolution and apologetics. And here's what he said. The earth is 7.8 billion years old. Now wait a minute. I've got a book in my library. In fact, it's the book from which I've got all my notes. And it says that everybody today believes that the earth is 13.8 billion years old. I don't know about you, that's about 6 more billion years than what I was taught when I was in high school and college. How all of a sudden you just add on 6 billion years? Isn't that wonderful? Here's the reason. And here's the thinking of the evolutionist. Given enough time, anything can happen. Isn't that amazing? Given enough time, anything can happen. It will not surprise me if 20, 30, 40 years from now, when individuals are talking about these subjects, that the evolutionist is not telling individuals that the world has to be at least 30 billion years old. You want to know why? Because they need the probability, don't they? They need the chance. They need that much time in order to try to get the universe here the way it is at this present time. Through what? Through bad mutations. Well, really, good mutations, but they're very rare and not truthful. Now, even though those are the two laws that exist, okay? There's no such thing as spontaneous generation, that is, life coming from non-life. There is no way for anything to cross over the kind lines. Even those two facts are out there. Guess what is the most accepted theory of human origins today? Evolution. Isn't that crazy? It just blows my mind. And if you and I go out into our world, even if you go to your next door neighbor, you say, hey, let me sit down here and let me talk to you about something real quick. Did you know that less than 10,000 years ago, God created by His spoken word all that exists today in 6 literal 24-hour days? You want to know what your neighbor's going to say? You believe that stuff? You think that's true? You haven't read a science book? You haven't been taught anything? That's your next door neighbor. These are people that we work with. It may be people in our very own families. And they will laugh at you. And if they don't laugh at you, they will just totally neglect anything that you've got to say. Because as far as they're concerned, you are ignorant. Isn't that amazing? You are ignorant. So guys, if we're going to argue our cases, we've got to know our stuff. Well, that needs to be a bumper sticker, doesn't it? If you're going to argue your case, you need to know your stuff. But that's true. So let's talk for a few minutes about this concept of human evolution. We're going to be talking about several different things, and a couple of them are very simple, very easy. A couple of them are not so easy. Okay, so we'll just kind of zip through those as fast as we can, and then we'll come to some conclusions at the end. All right? Somebody tell me when it's about 10 till 8. all right? 10 till 8. They don't ring a bell for me. We'll have a brief dismissal of about 10 or 15 minutes. There's some good stuff back there tonight, okay? It's adult food, and I know it's adult food. You want to know how I know? It's fattening, okay? Ain't nothing healthy about it, okay? We're talking about cookies. We're talking about cupcakes, okay? And if you miss it, it's your fault, because I told you about it. About 10 till 8, let me know. All right? Point number 1. Does the fossil record support human evolution? Okay? Does the fossil record support human evolution? Let's see. You see that bottom picture right there? Isn't that what we see in science books all the time? What is the thing all the way on the left? That's an ape. I don't know how Larry figured that out, but that's what that is. That's an ape on the left. What's that on the very far right? That's a human being. And you want to know what's in between? In between are the links. The links. Now, they're not missing links. If they're missing, they wouldn't be there, right? These are the links. Let's talk about this fossil record for a minute. There's 3 points that you need to remember about the fossil record. Number 1, inadequate evidence. Inadequate evidence. What do I mean by that? Boy, old Michael's back there. He read his apologetics book today. Okay, that's right. Inadequate. Inadequate. If what evolution is saying is true, then you would think that we would have thousands and thousands and thousands of transitional fossils, would you not? And the way they draw those figures right there, you would think, wow, they must have found total, complete what? Skeletons of these people. Just look at them. They know exactly what they look like. Oh, they will. Yes, they'll try to. Paleontologists often rely on a few isolated fossil bones or bone fragments found here and there around the world to construct their alleged tree of human evolutionary proof. Folks, the fossil record does not contain very many transitional fossils. Listen to this. The remarkable fact is that all the physical evidence we have for human evolution can still be placed with room to spare inside a single coffin. I don't know, I don't know who picked the picture of a coffin, but isn't that a great analogy, That's exactly where evolution needs to be put, in a coffin, doesn't it? Now think about that. Is a coffin very big? It's not that big, maybe 6, 7 feet long, 3 feet wide, okay? Now think about that. All of the fossil record, all of it, as far as humans are concerned, could be placed into a coffin and there would still be room to spare. Watch this. They have never found one complete skeleton of a, quote, missing link. Never. Isn't that unbelievable? And yet, you would think that they found not one, but they found 100 of them, haven't they? And they're able to watch them grow from apes into these giant men. Inadequate evidence. See, that's another question that we need to teach our children to ask, don't we? Teacher, can I ask a question? How many full skeletons of missing links have ever been found? The answer is none, right? But wouldn't you love for an evolutionist to have to answer that? Last week I was teaching the teen class, and we got to a point in that class, and we were talking about animal evolution. And so I just opened up the drawer, I handed them a sheet of paper, I handed them a pen, and then I handed each one of them a toothpick. A toothpick. And I told them, I said, now, is that evidence of a tree? Yeah, it's made of wood. I said, okay, here's what I want you to do. From that, I want you to draw the tree from which that toothpick came. Draw it for me. And guess what? They started drawing. Oh, they were all different. Every one of them were different. And I had to stop them. I said, guys, how do you know what that tree looked like by just a toothpick? It's an impossibility. I asked them, I said, how tall was it? Oh, no. How many leaves did it have? Oh, no. How big around was it? Oh, no. How deep did the roots go? Oh, no. If you don't know any of that stuff, guess what you can't do? You can't draw a tree from which that came. It's an impossibility. Now, this is exactly what the evolutionists done. Remember, there's very little evidence, right? You find one tooth, you find one jawbone, you find one thigh bone, and you draw a whole man. You can't do that to save, well, you can, but it doesn't mean it's accurate. How do they know that's what that person looked like from one tooth? Let me come around, pull one of your teeth, take it to about 10 different artists, and I said, now I want you to draw the picture of the person from which this tooth came. You think any of them would draw you? No, not one person could do that. And yet that's exactly what the scientists have done. Okay? Inadequate what? Inadequate evidence in the fossil record. Okay? Number two, not only is it inadequate evidence, it is also erroneous evidence. Uh-oh, here's a big word, Mike. What's that mean? Erroneous. Full of air. That's not a bad definition, okay? False evidence, fake evidence, evidence that's been found to be not true, evidence that was nothing but a hoax from day one. You ready for this? You ever heard of Java Man? Now look at him. He kind of cute. He's supposed to be one of our ancestors. Watch this. The skull cap of a gibbon. Does anybody know what a gibbon is? It's just a small ape. Okay? A gibbon. And fossilized teeth and thigh bone of a modern human. So they brought two different kinds of fossils together. One of a man, a real man. One of a what? Of an ape. Put them together and said, see there? There he is. How do you draw that man from those two things? It's unbelievable. Ever heard of this guy? Piltdown Man. Very prominent in the books. He was built, erected, constructed from a modified orangutan jawbone and the portion of a modern human skull. So you got a little bit of a human skull, you got an orangutan jawbone, put them together, and that's what you get right there. Piltdown Man. Now guys, listen to me. These are facts. These are not, this isn't something I'm making up, okay? So again, what can we teach our children to do? Raise their hand and ask a question. You tell me, teacher, what was Piltdown Man constructed of? Wouldn't you love to hear the answer to that from an evolutionist? Well, it was orangutan jawbone and a skull of a human. That's crazy, isn't it? Anybody ever heard of this guy? Nebraska Man. Nebraska Man. You ready? He was constructed from a single tooth of a wild pig. There you go. And that's one of our ancestors. That's what I call a guy with a tooth problem. You know it? I was reading they pulled that thing out and stuck it somewhere. One wild pig tooth, and you draw that man right there and say he's one of our missing links. Again, a child needs to know that, don't they? Hey, teacher, do you believe in Nebraska man? Oh, yeah. Been to see Nebraska man. What's he constructed of? Well, he's constructed of one wild pig tooth. Isn't it funny that they took a pig's tooth and drew a man rather than taking a pig's tooth and drawing a pig? Doesn't even make sense, does it? Here's another one. This is an interesting one. Well, I'll come back to him, okay? Let's stay at Nebraska. Flipper Man. Anybody ever heard of Flipper Man? I couldn't even find a picture of Flipper Man. I'd love to have seen Flipper Man. Couldn't find a picture of him to save me. I looked and I looked and I looked. Flipper Man was constructed from the fossilized rib of a dolphin. There you go. A dolphin. Amazing, isn't it? Let's go now to this guy. Horsey Man. Guess what he was constructed out of? You don't even want to guess, me neither. The skull cap of a donkey. Yeah. Isn't that something? The skull cap of a donkey. Unbelievable. You ever heard of this guy? Java Man 2. I don't know how they ran out of names so quickly, do you? They already had Java Man. Now you have Java Man 2. The kneecap of an elephant. That's what he's constructed of. It's unreal, isn't it? Unbelievable. Southwestern Colorado man, couldn't find a picture. He's constructed of the teeth of an antique horse. The Calaveras man, a human skull planted by miners, M-I-N-E-R-S. Now think about that. These were miners. They went in and found a human skull. They went and planted it themselves in a place where they knew somebody would find it. They found it. And guess what it's the skull of? A man who lived about 1,000 years ago. Has nothing to do with evolution whatsoever. Now listen to this next statement. It was generally evolutionists themselves who uncovered their own fossil blunders and hoaxes. I don't know about you, that makes me mad. You know that? Because they should have immediately done what? They should have immediately announced it to the world, should they not? That every one of these individuals that we have put up as missing links are just a hoax, a blunder, it's false, it's not true. But they don't do that. There are still some replicas of these individuals in museums, pictures of them in our science books, and they are still being taught to children as being our missing links. It's just as dishonest as it can possibly be, isn't it? It's unbelievable to me. Wow. Questions, comments, anybody? Yes, sir.
The only quick comment is that, okay, if you started with a monkey and you got a man, why is it still monkeys, still apes, still gorillas, still orangutans, but everything in between is missing and you still got the man and ape?
Yep.
So
Absolutely. You would think eventually would evolve themselves out.
Exactly.
That's what you're saying, right? That eventually there would be no more apes because the apes have evolved into men. Okay? But that's not the case at all.
You still have the apes and you still have the man, but you don't have nothing in between.
Nothing.
That's a lie.
He's starting to preach back there, ain't he? Jeannie, you don't go preaching. Okay? What do they say that an ape evolved from? I'd have to go back and look at, there's close connections they try to make within the animal kingdom, okay? But I was in a geology class, and I had my professor who was teaching. He says that the human brain is almost identical to a certain kind of lizard brain, okay? Which I thought was interesting. That's the one point I remember from that class. The only other point I remember from that class was this. The teacher walked in and he says, "My name is so-and-so. I'm your geology teacher." He says, "There are two theories of origins." I couldn't believe he said it, but he said it. He said, "But I am paid to teach one theory, and that's what I'll be teaching you." And he taught us the theory of evolution. But he acknowledged the fact that there's two theories. Wouldn't you have loved to have heard him teach on the other side of that? Made me think that he thought that the other theory was as viable or more so than the one he was paid to teach. But he taught evolution. Yes?
The analogy that you used where the mule, in where instances is able to reproduce, they always have a horse, where they originated from.
Right.
So us as humans, why aren't we procreating apes? If that's where we came from. We should have apes.
Well, that, well,
We should go back to our origin.
if that's true, if what they are, is saying is true, but what they always say, evolution never goes backwards. Evolution in their mind always progresses. Okay, and so that's why we never go back, but yet we, like you said a while ago, we still have what? We still have apes and we still have men, don't we? So kind of weird.
I don't understand is if the earth is umpteen billion years old, how many more people would there be on earth today?
Oh, population estimates would be ridiculous.
There wouldn't be room for them all.
Couldn't do it. All right, now let's talk about one more thing, okay? Isn't that a beauty, okay? Isn't that a sweetie right there? The third argument about fossil record, okay? Irrelevant evidence, okay? Does anybody know who this young lady is? That is Lucy. Yes, anybody ever heard of Lucy? When I was growing up, Lucy, boy, if you get her autograph, you are one rich dude, okay? But that's Lucy. Have you ever heard of that word right there? You can't even say it, can you? Okay, they make it hard. Australopithecines. Okay, this is supposed to be one of the groups of humans that slowly evolved. Okay, and so they will say, now wait a minute. There are some fossils of human beings or of transitional individuals, right, that aren't what? That aren't hoaxes. So what do you say about that, preacher? Remember what I said a while ago? What's the second rule we gave that's always true? You cannot cross kind lines. When they first found the fossil remains for Lucy, they said this was a transitional fossil from an ape to a human. Guess what they no longer do? They no longer argue that. You want to know why? The fossils are ape remains only. Only. And that whole class of individuals in that particular group of fossils, all of them are, guess what? Apes and only apes. And even scientists acknowledge that to this very day. Okay? And so basically what they've done is they've proved that, guess what? You can't cross what? Can't cross kind lines. One man made this statement. He says, now we have not just a divide between apes and humans, we have a chasm between apes and humans. And guess who drew that chasm? God Almighty, didn't He? Things create or reproduce after their what? After their kind. An ape produces an ape. A man produces a man. A dog produces a dog. And folks, it'll always be that way. Okay? So this idea of, these individuals, having these fossil records is false. Questions or comments? We're about to move on to another point. What time is it? Y'all are, what time? 7:43. I got 7 minutes to cover point number 2. Boy, we'll never get out of here tonight, will we? Anybody ever heard of vestigial organs? Got a couple of folks that have you? You never heard of vestigial organs? You don't know that you even have them? Boy, you know, you may need to go get them vestigials checked out. Okay, she don't even know she has them. What do you think the word vestigial comes from? What's its root? No. Vestigial. Like that?
Sounds like some kind of spaghetti.
Vestige. Okay? A vestige. All right? It is something that is attached to your body, in your body, that is a vestige of the evolutionary process. Okay? And even though it is there today, you don't need it. Okay? You don't need it. It's what? It was said to be useless. And one of these days, as we continue to evolve, as far as the evolutionist is concerned, what will happen to all of these vestigial organs? They'll just fall off and disappear, and, 100,000 years from now, our ancestors won't have all these things. Okay? 1895, was that a long time ago? Yeah, I wasn't even born. Can you believe that? 1895, a German anatomist went through the human body, and he developed a list of 86 vestigial organs in the human body. 86. In other words, 86 things in you that you don't need. One of them, wisdom teeth. I only had 3 when I was in college. Through my kids till I got to college. I only had 3. They examined my head to see if the 4th one was up there somewhere. They still hadn't found it. But I had 3. But they were impacted, and they were causing my teeth to twist and turn. So guess what they wanted to do? Well, to cut them out. And guess what they did? They cut them out. I still got big old holes back there. Sometimes food still gets stuck in them holes. But guess what? Here I is. I have lived since 19 years old without what? Wisdom teeth. You don't need them old wisdom teeth. They're just what? Vestiges of the past, vestigial organs. Wow. Anybody ever had their tonsils removed? I'm not raising my hand because I have. Anybody had them removed? And look, twice. What'd you have? Evolution. Now, I want you to think about it. Raise your hands again. Boy, some of our oldest folks in here had their tonsils taken out. Larry, how old were you? Less than a teenager. Boy, 400 years ago. A long time ago, right? And yet Larry is still here even though he had his tonsils cut out. You don't need them nasty what? Tonsils? They're just what? Vestigial organs. Man, unbelievable. Anybody ever had their appendix taken out? Ooh. It's funny how you go from wisdom teeth to tonsils, and then you get to appendix, and it just keeps getting littler and littler and littler, okay? The sad part is you see some people doing this every time. I've had them all taken out. I don't have any vestiges of the past anymore. But appendix, can you live without your appendix? Oh yeah, vestigial organ. Gallbladder, vestigial organ. Let me ask you this. Do you know some weightlifters, those guys that are powerhouses in the gym? And you know what they do? They shave every hair on their body, and guess what? They live. Can you believe it? They can live without their what? Without their body hair. That's just a what? Vestigial organ. Now, I promise you that's on the list. Okay? Isn't that unbelievable? So here you are, you've got all these organs, all these body parts that you really don't need. And the reason that they're there is because you have evolved from the time when you did what? You did need them. Now, that was 1895. We don't live in 1895. We live in, oh, very good. I want to see who knew what year they were living in. Okay, 2023. That's a long time, isn't it? You want to know what's been done? Research into every vestigial organ. And you want to know what's been found? Every one of them, even though you might be able to live without it, every one of them provides a function in your life. Okay? Tonsils. Are they needed? Oh, yes. You want to know one of the needs of a tonsil? It helps your immunity system, especially when you are a child. Do children get around a lot of nasty stuff? Yeah. Do they not know how to wash their hands? But do they know how to put their hands in their mouth? Yes. Guess what they need? They need a good immune system, don't they? And that's what God gave them when He gave them what? Tonsils. So you get to be 13, 14, 15 years old. You're no longer a child. You're washing your hands more. You're not putting your hands in your mouth and doing all these crazy things. Well, guess what? You can do without tonsils, can't you? There's a thing known as the parathyroid. You still got yours? Everything I've asked Kimberly, she's raised her hand. she said, I don't know whether I got it or not. Okay, a parathyroid. That's supposed to be another vestigial organ. It regulates your calcium intake. Your appendix. It also is an important part of your immune system. Okay, what? Oh, time. I got a woman back there. She's hungry for them cookies and stuff. Let me read you this. Not an organ has been found on the human body that does not have a legitimate function, effectively falsifying evolution. It's one of their big arguments, vestigial organs. And they're all what? They're all needed. They all serve a purpose. Even your hair. Okay? All right, we've got 2 or 3 more points that we want to make very, very quickly. I'm going to skip 2 sections, okay? And when I read the sections, you may say, well, I'm glad you're skipping that. How about this one? Human-chimp chromosome fusion. Aren't you glad I'm skipping that? Okay? You can write that down, go home, study it for yourself. Pretty simple, okay? And another one is this. Well, I'm not going to skip this one. Let's just go to this next one. True or false? There are similarities between chimpanzees and humans as far as DNA is concerned. Jeannie's already screamed out true. If you're talking to an evolutionist, that will be one of the points that they will make. Okay? And here's what they will tell you. The similarities between human DNA and chimpanzee DNA are 98 to 99% exactly the same. Wow. Is that a lot of likeness? Sounds like a ton of likeness, does it not? And so they would say, see there, that just goes to show you that what? We are not that far removed from whom? From the chimpanzees. Okay? So how do we answer that argument? Okay? There's 4 things that they do not take into account when they compare the DNA of chimps and the DNA of humans. Okay? Number 1, they ignore the qualitative differences. Okay? Does a chimp stand up straight? No. Okay? But does a chimp have eyes? Okay. See, they compare the eyes, but they don't compare the what? How they stand, whether they're straight or whether they're hunched over. So they don't compare all the differences as they go through this DNA sequence. Here's another. If you start comparing DNA, there are 4 bases that are compared. Okay, there's 4 things in the DNA are compared. And I don't know all about this stuff at all. I'm no scientist at all. But they call them this, the AGCT. Okay, AGCT, the 4 bases in the DNA. You take humans and you compare them to ants. You take humans and you compare them to chimpanzees. You take humans and compare them to a bird. And guess what? Every time, all of them will be 25% alike. Okay? That's just because you've only got 4 bases, right? And so the chances of those 4 bases being identical 25% of the time, it'll happen in every aspect of the animal kingdom. Okay, it doesn't matter what you compare, they're going to be 25% alike. Another point that they make is this: it does not account for the unalliable regions of the human genomes. Okay, and then lastly, it does not account for contamination. When you bring in all of those factors, the likenesses between us and chimps drops to about 80%. Okay, in our DNA, rather than 98 or 99%. That's a pretty big difference, is it not? Now, why in the world are the DNA so similar? Because there are a lot of similarities. We have eyes, they have eyes. We have noses, they have noses. We eat vegetables, they eat vegetables. Our digestive system is similar to their digestive system. Okay? They have fingers, we have what? Fingers. But guys, guess what? Similarity does not prove evolution. Similarity points to a designer. When you figure out something and that something works, guess what you do all the time? You repeat it. You use it over and over and over and over, right? We finally invented the wheel, didn't we? I can't imagine why it took so long to invent a wheel, okay? But we finally invented a wheel. And guess what we do? We use it on everything, don't we? Everything. Motorcycles. Jackie and I were talking about motorcycle wheels. I didn't realize how much them jokers cost. He said about $300 or $400 a piece for a motorcycle wheel. That's unbelievable. We use them on wagons, don't we? Okay. Some of you guys have strollers now to get down the aisle. Guess what it's got on there? Wheels. Okay. Does that mean that those things all evolved? No. It means they're similar. And similar is good because it works. When God found a pattern that worked, guess what He did? He used it over and over and over and over and over, didn't He? Okay? And so just be aware that they're going to talk about these similarities, especially in the DNA. Now, this next one we're about to talk about, it may be a little complicated, but I think you need to understand it a little bit, okay? It's called this: the mitochondrial DNA and Eve. Okay? DNA is stored in 2 places in the human cell. Okay? It is stored in the nucleus and it is stored in the mitochondrial. Those are the 2 places. Is DNA passed on from mom and dad to child? Yes and no. Okay? DNA found in the nucleus is passed on by mom and dad. Okay? DNA in the mitochondrial is only passed on by the mother. So what they've done, they've gone in and done a study of DNA in women. And what they've looked for are what they refer to as the mutations in that DNA. What changes that DNA? And here's what's interesting. They found a consistent rate of change. Now, if that be the case, that there's a consistent rate of change, they can take that rate of change, put it on women today, and then calculate all the way back to the very first woman. Okay? Guess when the first woman lived according to their calculations? Less than 10,000 years ago. That's a whole lot different than 3 million years ago, is it not? And that conforms to Bible teaching, doesn't it? But see, this is the kind of stuff they won't tell you. Okay? What they'll do is they'll jump on that DNA from the nucleus, which includes man, and they'll use it as their only proof, but they won't tell you about the other DNA. So you need to be aware of that. Now, this is the last section. Guys, the problem with the evolutionist is worse than what we've presented. Okay? The evolutionist not only has to have one human evolve, they have to have two humans to evolve. Well, they not only have to have two humans to evolve, they have to have two humans to evolve that are radically different from one another. One has to be a male and one has to be a female in order to reproduce. Here's what the evolution has to believe. The very moment that a male finally popped up in the genealogy of man, the history of man, guess what else had to immediately pop up? A female as well. Okay? So it's not just one being came into existence, two beings had to come up into existence. That immediately broadens the probabilities, doesn't it? Or lessens the probability. Now listen to this. Both had to have functional reproductive systems, didn't they? I love this next one. Hadn't even thought about this. They had to run into each other somewhere on the planet. Didn't they? Now guys, there's only 196,900,000 square miles of land. So here's this male, he pops up. Here's this female, she pops up. And now on this humongous planet, they have to what? Run into each other. Oh, looky there. Another human popped up. Thirdly, they had to find each other in a hostile, primitive environment without being starved, eaten, diseased, or accidentally killed. Number 4, they had to find each other in their childbearing years. They couldn't be too young, couldn't be too old. They had to be able to do what? Bring forth children. I like this next one. They had to be willing to mate with one another. You ever run into somebody that you didn't like? You know? How did these two beings just pop up? They finally find each other on this humongous planet, and then guess what? Yuck, I don't like him. But oh no, as fate would have it, they loved each other. And then guess what had to happen? They mate, and the mother had to be successful in childbearing. And folks, in a primitive, hostile environment, that is very difficult to do. Now, one man wrote this: if the accidental emergence of a single human being from a non-human being seems ludicrous to you, surely the other requirements necessary to make a species survive reveals the evolutionary proposition to be beyond preposterous. Simply put, human evolution would require a miracle. Isn't that true? Now, let's see if this thing will work. This is the conclusion. Did you know that evolutionists scoff at us because we have faith in God, don't they? They laugh at us. You weak, feeble human beings, you believe in God. And we cower down to that. Folks, evolutionists have to have faith, don't they? Number one, they have to have faith that matter is eternal. We believe in what? God as being eternal. Well, those gases, whatever it was, that little speck of dust, whatever that stuff was that exploded, that big bang, it had to be what? It had to be eternal. If there was ever a time when nothing existed, then guess what? Nothing would exist today. Nothing times nothing is what? Nothing. Secondly, they have to believe order was created by an explosion. Just go home tonight. Well, yeah, it's getting close to the 4th. You can stop by one of these firecracker places. Get you some M80s, go home, put one under your sink. Well, why don't you do it? Just put one in your cupboard. Maybe 3 or 4 of them. And just, light them, shut the door real fast, boom! And guess what you might have? You might have your meal for the next week. You think that would ever happen? You see, explosions never create order. Explosions always create chaos. How about this next one? Life can come from non-life. That's what they believe. That's one of their main pillars. They have to believe that. Another one. Enough good mutation jumped kind lines to form all that exists today. Not just one mutation, but millions and millions of good mutations that are what? Very, very, very rare. Point number 5, given enough time, anything can happen. Right? You go to Vegas and you sit there at Vegas gambling. Given enough time, I'll be a millionaire. And you die there, don't you? It's unbelievable. The fossil record proves evolution, even though the fossil record contains very few transitional fossils. They put their trust in fossils, and yet there are no what? There are no fossils. Unbelievable. And then lastly, male and female evolved at the same time with perfectly developed reproductive organs, successfully found each other, liked each other, and gave birth to a human baby. Here's what I believe. I believe it takes more faith to be an evolutionist than it ever does to believe in the Almighty God. You know that? No doubt in my mind. But, and this is a big contrast, but if man believes that God created everything, you want to know what that means? That means that we, as His creatures, are supposed to submit to His rule. I ended my notes with these 2 words, and they come from the evolutionist. God forbid. And they know that. If we admit there's a God, we have to submit to Him. God forbid that we ever do that.